Dim the lights, settle in, and prepare yourself for stories that will haunt your dreams and send shivers down your spine. Here at Tombstone Tales, we delve into the darkest corners of the internet, unearthing chilling stories of the supernatural, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying. From shadowy figures lurking in the night to sinister secrets buried deep in forgotten history, each episode is crafted to immerse you in a world of fear and fascination. Hit that subscribe button, join our community of thrill seekers, and embark on a journey where every whisper could be a warning and every shadow a threat. Are you ready to face your fears? Then let the story time begin. Hi folks, this next story was written and submitted by Wade Green. If you would like to contribute a story to my channel, you can now contact me directly on the Tombstone Tales Discord server. You can find the link in the description below. Happy listening. The climb up the rocky, wind-swept mountainside was made all the more difficult by the howling crosswind of ice-cold rain and foreboding darkness. Cypher climbed toward the grotto. Approaching the summit, he pulled himself up and over the slate overhang bordering the cave entrance. Casting his eyes into the Stygian gloom of the mossy aperture, Cypher reached to his right shoulder and clicked on the red beam of his L-torch. The faded red light barely illuminated the dark entry as he took a measured step into the gloom. The faint red light bounced off the dark slate walls of the grotto as Cypher approached a broken stalagmite upon which sat an open-topped mossy log. It was here his orders awaited him. The grotto had been used for decades by members of his order. Its high peaks made it an ideal place to hide such things. Taking the note out, he read,
"Possible cryptid target. Location, Smoky Mountains Resort and Spa. Details, missing patrons over the last month. Reports of icy blasts of cold followed by the stench of rotting wood. Locals warned patrons to avoid the resort. Advice was ignored. Fear imminent incursion."
Sighing audibly, he neatly folded the paper and pocketed it.
This makes little sense.
Confused at the lack of information, he ran through a quick list in his head of possible targets.
Demon? Jinn?
A thought hit him as the third creature appeared in his mind's eye.
It can't be.
If the creature was indeed what he had envisioned, this must be either a joke or a harsh test of his skill. His master must think he is ready. Shrugging to himself, he stepped out towards the cave entrance to begin the treacherous climb down to the trail leading to his car. Cypher pulled up to the outskirts of the resort as the cold winter rain partially obscured his view. Nestled into a crook between two connecting rock outcrops lay the Great Smoky Mountains Resort and Spa. Located deep in the Appalachians, the resort had seen a downturn of late. Cypher knew why and was here to stop it. Glancing out of the front windscreen through the gloom of rain and foreboding darkness, his eyes noticed the warm glow coming from the windows of the wooden chalets, acting as an inviting beacon for any weary traveler. It had been a long drive from the grotto, and the darkness of the night made it difficult to see. Shrugging to himself, he stepped out of the warmth of his vehicle and into the driving rain. Other than the banging of loose window shutters, the only sound audible was the howling of the growing storm and the scrape of tree branches on wooden walls. Reaching into the trunk of his car, he equipped himself with his rifle, hunting knife, and other necessary equipment for his work. The second thing he noticed was the smell. Burning wood gave way to rot and decay as he slowly approached the wooden entry doors to the main building. Shivering in the damp air, he opened the doors with a creak and entered, shutting the door to the outside storm. The sight that met his eyes sent a chill down his spine. Bodies and blood. Scattered throughout the lobby lay the tattered and broken remains of men, women, and children. This last sight, amongst the broken remnants of furniture and smashed wood, caused him to drop to one knee momentarily, resisting the urge to vomit. In the year that he had been pursuing his profession, he had never seen such carnage. Approaching the closest body, that of a young adult male, he started his investigation. Burning eyes peered in through the pane glass window at the kneeling human inside. A low growl emitted from its broken lips as another stab of hunger pain racked its emaciated form. It would break, it would tear, and it would feed on this, its newest prey. A small shiver ran up Cypher's spine as he examined the corpse. A feeling of dread filled him as a gust of icy wind blew open a window to his right. The blast of air carried the same stench of rot and decay as he had smelled earlier. Slowly raising his rifle, he peered at the window. A lightning crack outside resolved a shape for a split second before the darkness crept back and the shadow dissipated.
What the hell?
He whispered. Breathing deeply, he waited a moment, his ears straining to hear nothing. Heart hammering in his chest, he returned his gaze to the mangled body. It was a mess. The chest was pulped, and the face was stuck in a rictus expression of despair. Upon further examination of the corpse, he realized it was missing the liver. A few things he knew would be so selective, and none of them he wished to face alone. A creeping fear filled his mind as he slowly rose to his feet and continued through the main lobby to a door that led to a darkened hallway with a sign above, Spa House. With bestial speed, the emaciated creature leapt upwards, its sharp claws digging into the wooden frame of the building. With fervor, it followed its prey from a parallel rooftop. Sticking to the shadows, it remained cloaked from the human sight as it prowled forward. Cypher continued down the dark hallway, his nerves on a razor's edge after his encounter in the lobby. He felt anxious, sweat from his brow running down his cheek as he contemplated the shadow he saw from the window. It was only there for a second, he thought. As he continued down the darkened hallway, he noticed it was covered with overturned tables, the wooden floors clotted with dried blood, and the walls covered with deep claw marks. Based on the bodies he had seen in the lobby and the lack of copper smell from the blood, he figured that this had happened less than a day ago. Was the creature alone, or had it done this with aid? He continued steadily down the hallway until he arrived at an ajar door leading to what was clearly the spa house. Turning on his shoulder torch, his gaze fell upon what the red light illuminated. A spa still running, bloody water on the floor next to a table carrying damp towels and assorted body and hair oils. Walking further into the room, he started to kneel down and examine the spa when a deafening crash to his right was followed by a keening screech. The Wendigo, having followed its prey from the dark and rainy night, plunged powerfully through the wall it faced. Wood gave way as if made of paper. The human turned to raise its weapon. Late, much too late. Battering the weapon aside, it howled and sank its claws deep. Screaming in anger, Cypher lost control of his weapon as the powerful blow caught him off guard. The Wendigo sank its claws further into his shoulder. He could feel the claws scrape against bone as sweat started beading on his forehead. He struggled to reach for his combat knife while using his free hand to hold the creature by the throat in a semi-vain attempt to stall its ravenous assault. Snarling with effort, the Wendigo snapped at Cypher's face as his hand neared his knife. Twisting his body weight with the movement of the creature's next attack, Cypher overbalanced the Wendigo with a kick to its emaciated legs. Using the moment of surprise, he drew his knife in a smooth motion and brought it down into the side of the creature's neck. Warm vitae squirted across his face as the stunned Wendigo howled in pain and fury. Wasting no time, Cypher twisted and wrenched the blade right then left to sever the main arteries, bringing the Wendigo, now drowning in its own blood, crashing to the floor. Pulling the blade back for a final strike, Cypher brought it down with all his force through the top of the skull into the brain, stilling the creature for good. Taking a gasping breath, Cypher collapsed to the tiled floor, hand clutching the soon-to-be serious shoulder wound, as it spilled his own blood to mix with the dark mess of the Wendigo currently pooling on the ground. The darkness pooled in at the edge of his vision, and he slowly closed his eyes. Waking with a gasp, Cypher's head spun as he painfully rose to his knees, his wounds now dry and closing but still aching. A tool of the trade, he was told by his master during his training. His order had access to ancient and effective alchemical preventatives. Using such things came at a cost, however. Looking down at his frame, Cypher ran his hands over his aching muscles and felt a distinct lessening of muscle mass. The ability to knit muscle, bone, and sinew at a supernatural rate had to draw its energy from somewhere. He had avoided using such things when he started with the order, but the last few hunts had required the insurance policy up front, lest he fail in his mission. Shakily rising to his feet, he looked down at the corpse of the Wendigo and let out a short breath of relief as he noticed it had yet to regenerate. He must not have lost consciousness for long. Reaching into his jacket pocket, he pulled out a small vial of translucent amber liquid. Carefully unscrewing the seal, he poured the contents over the Wendigo and stepped back as hissing and rising smoke immediately engulfed the creature. Seconds later, the Wendigo erupted into white-hot flames. Cypher turned his head at the blast of heat and light for a full 5 seconds. The smoke cleared and the heat slowly died down, leaving nothing but a small pile of crumbling ash that soon dissolved into a fine mist. Another necessity of his work. The general population was, for the most part, unaware of the existence of such cryptids. Cypher returns down the hallway, through the lobby, and out into the now lessening storm. The previous smell of rot and decay is replaced by the crisp scent of wet birch foliage. Taking a deep, pained breath of the icy air, Cypher slowly makes his way through the rain back to his car. His night is not yet over. The order will need to be told. No doubt the Watchers are already awaiting his return to the grotto. The whole incident will then be covered up, likely under the guise of some form of animal attack or other such easily digestible story. Such is the way of the order. Secrecy and lies for the greater good. Turning the key, the engine fires to life, and Cypher once again makes his way through the darkness to the ancient grotto of the order. Sighing deeply, he chuckles.
All in a night's work.